The space around the dead planet Corvex 7 was full of burning ships. Admiral Tejo stood on the bridge of his command vessel, watching another Kythera cruiser explode into bright pieces. The enemy had hit them hard again. "Sir, we lost the crystal," Don reported his communications officer. "No survivors." Tejo closed his eyes for a moment. That was the 5th ship they had lost this week. The Veloxians were winning this war, and everyone knew it. The war had been going on for 3 years. Now, the Kythera people, who looked like walking crystals, had asked for help when the Veloxians attacked their home worlds. The Zephyrians, who looked like giant insects, had joined the fight too. But it was not enough. The Veloxians were too strong. They had better ships, better weapons, and better shields. Their gray warships could destroy 3 coalition ships before taking any real damage. Captain Minho was flying his small scout ship far from the main battle. His job was to watch for enemy reinforcements. But today, his sensors picked up something strange. "What is that?" he asked his co-pilot, Lieutenant Jiwoo. "I don't know, sir. It's big, really big, but the energy readings are weird." The object was moving toward them from empty space. The area was called the Terran sector, but no one had ever found anything there except a few primitive planets. "Send the data to Admiral Tejo," Minho said. "He needs to see this." On the command ship, Intelligence Officer Da-un looked at the readings with confusion. "Sir, this doesn't match anything in our database. The ship is huge, maybe twice the size of our biggest dreadnought. But look at these power readings." Tejo studied the data. "These look like fusion drives. That's ancient technology. And what's this hull composition?" "It appears to be basic metal alloys, sir. Iron, steel, titanium. Very primitive materials. That's impossible. Nothing that primitive could survive in deep space, let alone reach this sector." Dagan pulled up more information on her screen. "Sir, I found something. 3 months ago, we discovered a new species in that region. They called themselves humans. Our scouts reported they had barely developed space travel. We classified them as non-threatening. And now one of their ships is here?" Tejo shook his head. "This must be some kind of mistake." But it was not a mistake. The massive ship continued moving toward the battle zone. It was dark gray with strange markings on its hull. Unlike the smooth, elegant designs of Coalition and Veloxian ships, this one looked rough and practical. The battle was still raging when the unknown ship appeared on everyone's sensors. Veloxian Fleet Commander Kex Nala saw it first. "What is that thing?" he demanded from his bridge. "Unknown vessel, sir. It doesn't match any design in our records." "Ignore it. Continue the attack on the crystal ships." But something strange happened. As the massive unknown ship moved through the battle zone, both fleets seemed to pause. Weapons fire became scattered. Ships on both sides slowed down to watch the newcomer. The ship was enormous. It moved slowly but steadily, like it owned the space around it. Its hull was covered in what looked like armor plating. There were no elegant curves or artistic designs. Everything looked built for function, not beauty. Captain Minho flew closer to get a better look. "Jiwoo, are you recording this?" "Yes, sir, but I've never seen anything like it. Look at those weapon mounts. They're huge, but they don't look like energy weapons." The strange ship had dozens of large tubes sticking out from its sides. There were also smaller guns scattered across its surface. Everything looked solid and heavy. "Sir," Jiwoo said suddenly, "I'm picking up a transmission. It's trying to communicate." The message was weak and full of static. The translation software could barely make sense of it, but eventually words came through. "This is human ship. UES Indomitable. Seeking Coalition forces." Admiral Tejo heard the message on his bridge. "Human ship? They actually came here?" Communications Officer Sujin tried to send a reply. "Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Tejo of the Coalition Fleet. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." The response took several minutes. The translation was clearly being done by basic computer programs. "Admiral Tejo, this is Captain Lee Dongwoo of Earthship Indomitable. We received distress signals. From this region, we came..." To help. The bridge fell silent. Dayun looked at her screens in disbelief. Sir, that ship traveled 6 months to get here. They came because they heard our distress calls? Help? Taeho said into the communicator. Captain Dongwu, with respect, this is a major space war. The enemy has advanced technology and superior numbers. Another long pause, then. Understood, Admiral. We are only one ship. But we came to fight. Lieutenant Commander Young Seo was standing on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the tactical display. The ship was full of humans wearing simple uniforms. Everything inside looked practical and sturdy, just like the outside. Captain, Young Seo said, I'm reading massive energy signatures from both fleets. The enemy ships have some kind of plasma weapons and energy shields. Our kinetic weapons might not be effective. Captain Dongwu was a calm man with gray hair and steady eyes. He had been in the Earth Navy for 20 years. What about their numbers? The Veloxian fleet has 43 warships. The Coalition has 27, but many are damaged. And we have one ship. Yes, sir. Dongwu nodded slowly. Then we'll have to be creative. On Admiral Taeho's ship, the officers were discussing the situation. Sir, we should tell them to leave, said his tactical officer. One primitive ship cannot make a difference here. They'll be destroyed in minutes. Maybe, Taeho said. But they traveled 6 months to help us. That means something. Daon was still studying the human ship's specifications. Sir, I don't understand their design philosophy. Look at this hull thickness. It's massive, but it's just metal. No energy, fields, no quantum reinforcement. And these weapons, they fire solid projectiles. Solid projectiles? Yes, sir. Metal slugs and explosive warheads, chemical rockets and magnetic accelerators. It's like they never discovered energy weapons. Sujin shook her head. How do they expect to fight modern warships with such primitive weapons? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. The Veloxian fleet had decided to resume their attack on the Coalition. But as they moved forward, the human ship changed course. Captain Dongwu spoke over the radio. Admiral Taeho, we will engage the enemy fleet. Please evacuate your damaged ships. Captain, wait. You don't understand the enemy's capabilities. But the Indomitable was already moving. Its massive engines glowed brighter as it accelerated toward the Veloxian fleet. Fleet Commander Kex Nala watched the approaching ship with amusement. A single primitive vessel? This will be entertaining. The human ship looked small compared to the entire Veloxian fleet, but it kept coming. There was something frightening about its steady approach. It didn't dodge or weave like other ships, it just came straight forward, like an unstoppable force. Sir, reported the Veloxian sensor officer, the primitive ship is targeting our lead. Cruisers, let it come. When it gets in range, destroy it quickly. I want to finish off the Coalition before they can escape. But as the Indomitable got closer, something felt wrong. The ship should have been running away or at least trying to dodge. Instead, it just kept coming, steady and patient. On the Coalition ships, everyone was watching. Captain Minho flew his scout ship to a safe distance. This is insane. That human ship is going to attack the entire Veloxian fleet by itself. Admiral Taeho stood on his bridge, feeling helpless. All ships, prepare to support the human vessel. We cannot let them fight alone. But his damaged fleet was in no condition to fight. Half his ships had no shields and most were low on ammunition. The space around them became very quiet. Both fleets waited to see what would happen when the lone human ship reached the enemy. No one knew that this moment would change everything. The Indomitable flew forward into history, carrying the hopes of 3 species and the fury of humanity. Commander Jae-sung had spent his whole life studying alien languages and customs. As the Kythera fleet's top communication specialist, he had learned to talk to dozens of different species. But talking to humans was different. Captain Dongwu, can you understand me clearly now? Jae-sung asked through the communication link. Yes, better now. My computer officer fixed translation program. Thank you for patience. The human captain's voice was calm but tired. Jae-sung could hear other voices in the background. People working and giving orders. Captain, may I ask why you came so far from your home? This war has nothing to do with Earth. There was a pause. Then Captain Dongwu said something that surprised everyone listening. 6 months ago, we received your distress signals. Very faint, but our deep space stations heard them. The message said civilians were dying. Children were homeless. Entire worlds were burning. Admiral Tejo joined the conversation. Captain, we appreciate your concern, but this is a major galactic conflict. The Veloxians have been fighting wars for centuries. They have weapons and technology far beyond what your species has developed. Admiral, we understand. We are not stupid. We know we are behind in technology, but we could not ignore people calling for help. Diplomatic attaché Su Jin tried to explain gently. Captain Dongwu, your ship is impressive for your level of technology, but the Veloxians have energy shields that can stop any physical attack. They have plasma weapons that can melt through the strongest metals. One of their cruisers could probably destroy your ship in minutes. The human captain was quiet for a moment. Then he said, maybe, but we did not come here to run away. On the Indomitable, Lieutenant Commander Young Seo was studying the tactical data that the Coalition had sent them. The information was frightening. The Veloxian ships were faster, more maneuverable, and much better armed than anything Earth had ever built. Captain, she said, their main battle cruisers have triple redundant shield generators. Our railguns probably can't penetrate them. Captain Dongwu nodded. What about their smaller ships? The destroyers and frigates have weaker shields. But sir, there are dozens of them. Chief Engineer Wan Sik looked up from his damage control station. Captain, we have another problem. Our armor can take a lot of punishment, but these plasma weapons generate incredible heat. If they concentrate fire on one section, we'll lose hull integrity. How long can we survive under concentrated fire? Maybe 10 minutes, sir, maybe less. The captain thought about this. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They all knew the odds were terrible, but none of them suggested turning back. Young Seo, what's our best tactical option? The tactical officer studied her screens. Sir, conventional tactics won't work. We can't outrun them, we can't outmaneuver them, and we can't outshoot them. So what can we do? Young Seo looked at him with a small smile. We can do what humans do best, sir. We can be unpredictable. Back on the Coalition flagship, the alien officers were trying to understand human psychology. They must realize they cannot win, said Intelligence Officer Da Yun. But they're staying anyway. Why? Admiral Tejo had been thinking about the same question. I've studied the preliminary reports about human culture. They seem to have a concept they call honor. They believe some things are worth dying for, but this isn't even their war. No, but they made it their war when they decided to help. Communications Officer Su Jin established another link with the human ship. Captain Dongwu, please listen carefully. We have detailed information about Veloxian tactics and weapons. If you're determined to fight, at least let us share what we know. We would be grateful for any information. For the next hour, the Coalition officers explained everything they knew about the enemy. They talked about Veloxian shield frequencies, weapon ranges, and battle formations. The humans listened carefully and asked good questions. Captain Dongwu asked, "These energy shields, they stop fast-moving objects?" Yes, the faster the projectile, the more energy the shield absorbs to stop it. What about slow-moving objects? Dayun paused. Well, the shields are designed to stop weapons fire. They might not react as strongly to something moving slowly. Interesting. What about multiple impacts on the same shield section? The shields can be overloaded if you hit the same spot many times quickly, but you would need incredible accuracy and timing. The human captain thanked them for the information. Then he asked something strange. Do the Veloxians ever expect enemy ships to deliberately collide with them? The question made everyone uncomfortable. Captain, ramming attacks are considered desperate and primitive. No civilized species uses such tactics. Good to know. Admiral Tejo was starting to worry about what the humans were planning. Captain Dongwu, You're not considering a suicide attack, are you? Admiral, we did not come here to die. We came here to win. On the Veloxian flagship, Fleet Commander Kex Nala was getting impatient. The primitive human ship had been sitting in space for over an hour, talking to the coalition forces. Sir, should we attack? Asked his weapons officer. Not yet, let's see what they do. I want to understand their capabilities before we destroy them. Kex Nala had been fighting wars for most of his life. He had conquered 12 star systems and destroyed hundreds of enemy ships. But something about the lone human vessel bothered him. Run a detailed scan of their ship, he ordered. The results were puzzling. Sir, their hull is incredibly thick, much thicker than necessary for a ship that size. And these weapon mounts, I've never seen anything like them. What kind of weapons? They appear to be kinetic accelerators, sir. Magnetic rail systems and chemical rocket launchers. Very primitive, but very large. Kex Nala studied the data. The human ship carried more weapons than some battle cruisers, but they were all based on throwing solid objects at the enemy. It was like bringing rocks to a plasma fight. Sir, there's something else. The ship has massive redundant systems, multiple power plants, backup life support, emergency hull reinforcement. It's like they designed it to keep working no matter how much damage it takes. Interesting design philosophy, but it won't help them against our firepower. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Dongwu called a meeting of his senior officers. We have good information now, he said. The enemy is strong, but they follow predictable patterns. They like to fight at long range with energy weapons. They expect us to do the same. Navigator Kyung Ho looked at the tactical display. Sir, if we charge straight at them, we'll be under fire for at least 5 minutes before we get close enough for our weapons to be effective. That's a long time to take punishment, admitted Weapons Officer He Jin. Medical Officer Yoon Young had been reading the coalition reports about Veloxian tactics. Captain, they always try to destroy the enemy command ship first. If we look like the biggest threat, they'll focus all their fire on us. Good, the captain said. That means they'll leave the coalition ships alone. Communications Officer Min Jung looked up from her station. Sir, Admiral Tai Ho is requesting another conference. He says he has a plan to help us. Captain Dong Wu nodded. Put him through. Admiral Tai Ho's voice came through clearly. Captain, my officers have been studying your ship design. We think we understand what you're planning, but we want to help. How? We can't fight effectively with our damaged ships, but we can create a distraction. If some of our vessels attack from the flanks, it might split the Veloxian formation. Captain, Dongwu thought about this. Admiral, that would put your ships in great danger. Captain, you traveled 6 months to help us. The least we can do is help you. The space around the dead planet was about to become very dangerous. 2 desperate fleets were preparing to face an enemy that had never been defeated. But for the first time in months, the coalition forces felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. The humans had brought more than just another warship. They had brought a new way of thinking about impossible situations. Fleet Commander Kex Nala had decided he had waited long enough. The human ship had been sitting in space for 3 hours, apparently making plans with the defeated coalition forces. It was time to end this. Open a channel to the primitive vessel, he ordered. The communication came through clearly on the Indomitable's bridge. Captain Dongwu listened as the Veloxian commander spoke in perfect galactic standard. Human ship, this is Fleet Commander Kex Nala of the 3rd Veloxian Battle Fleet. You have entered a combat zone without permission. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to interstellar law. Captain Dongwu looked at his officers. They were all watching him quietly. He picked up the communicator. Fleet Commander Kex Nala, this is Captain Lee Dongwu of the Earthship Indomitable. We did not come here to surrender. Then you came here to die. Your ship is primitive and alone. We have 43 warships with advanced weapons and shields. This will not be a battle. This will be an execution. The captain was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that would be remembered across the galaxy for centuries. Negative. This is our sector now. On the Veloxian flagship, several officers looked at each other in confusion. Sir, did he say this is their sector now? Kexnala was not amused. All ships, attack formation, target the human vessel, destroy it quickly, so we can finish the coalition. But Captain Dongwu was already giving orders to his crew. Wansik, give me maximum power to engines. Kyungho, plot a course straight through their formation. Hyejin, prepare all weapons. Sir, asked Young Seo, what about defensive maneuvers? No evasion. We go straight at them. Engineering Chief Wansik pushed the fusion reactors past their safety limits. The massive engines at the back of the Indomitable glowed brighter as the ship began to accelerate. Navigator Kyung-ho plotted the course on his screen. Captain, this course will take us directly between their two largest battle cruisers. We'll be taking fire from both sides. Perfect. Hyejin, I want continuous fire on both those cruisers as we pass through. Weapons Officer Hyejin checked her targeting systems. Sir, our railguns won't penetrate their shields at long range. Then we get close. Very close. The Indomitable began its attack run. Unlike any battle in galactic history, there was no elegant maneuvering or careful positioning. The human ship just pointed itself at the enemy fleet and charged. The Veloxian ships opened fire when the Indomitable was still far away. Bright beams of plasma energy reached across space to hit the human vessel. But something strange happened. The plasma beams hit the thick metal armor and spread across the surface, creating bright flames and melting metal. But the ship kept coming. More beams hit it, and more armor melted away. But underneath was more armor. Sir, the primitive ship is not slowing down, reported the Veloxian weapons officer. Increase fire. All ships concentrate on that vessel. Dozens of plasma beams now struck the Indomitable. The surface of the ship glowed red-hot. Pieces of melted metal flew off into space. But still it kept coming. On the human ship's bridge, Chief Engineer Wansik was reading damage reports as fast as they came in. Captain, we've lost outer hull sections 7 through 12. Hull temperature is approaching critical limits. Can we keep going? Yes, sir, but not for long at this rate. Captain Dongwu watched the enemy fleet getting larger on his screen. They were finally getting close enough for their weapons to work. Hyejin, open fire. All railguns, continuous. Barrage. The Indomitable's main weapons were magnetic accelerators that fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed. When they fired, the whole ship shook. Unlike energy weapons, these guns made noise and created recoil. The first railgun slugs hit the lead Veloxian cruiser's shields and were stopped. But more slugs followed immediately, and more after that. The human ship was firing as fast as its weapons could cycle. Sir, reported the Veloxian shield operator, the kinetic impacts are causing resonance in the shield generators. If this continues, we may have overload problems. Fleet Commander Kexnala was not worried. The primitive ship will be destroyed long before that becomes an issue. But the Indomitable was still coming. Now it was close enough that its smaller weapons could join the fight. Dozens of projectile cannons opened fire, filling space with metal bullets and small rockets. The Veloxian cruiser's shields began to flicker under the constant pounding. The energy barriers were designed to stop fast-moving energy beams, not hundreds of solid projectiles hitting the same spot over and over. Sir, shield generator 3 is overloading. Impossible. Maintain fire on the human ship. But now something even more impossible happened. The Indomitable launched missiles, not energy torpedoes or plasma warheads, but simple chemical rockets with nuclear explosives. The missiles were slow by galactic standards. The Veloxian point defense systems should have easily destroyed them, but there were so many missiles that the defensive guns could not hit them all. The first nuclear warhead exploded against the cruiser's weakened shields. The explosion was bright but primitive. However, it was followed by another explosion and another. Soon dozens of nuclear fireballs were blooming against the Veloxian ship's defenses. Shield collapse. We're taking direct hits. The Veloxian cruiser's elegant hull began to crack under the nuclear bombardment. Metal plates buckled and atmosphere vented into space. But the most shocking thing was still to come. As the Indomitable passed between the two cruisers, Captain Dongwu gave an order that terrified both fleets. Kyung-ho collision course with the second cruiser. Wansik, brace for impact. The human ship turned slightly and aimed directly at the second Veloxian vessel. To everyone watching, it looked like a suicide attack. "They're going to ram us," shouted the Veloxian captain. His ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. The Indomitable, moving at tremendous speed, slammed into the side of the cruiser. The collision was massive. Both ships shook violently as metal tore and sparks flew. The Veloxian cruiser's hull cracked open like an egg, but incredibly the human ship kept going. The Indomitable's front section was crushed and torn, but the ship was still in one piece. Its thick armor and internal bracing had been designed for exactly this kind of punishment. "Damage report," Captain Dongwu called out as his ship cleared the wreckage. "Forward section's heavily damaged, sir, but all vital systems are operational. We can keep fighting." Communications officer Min Jung had been broadcasting human military music during the entire attack. Now she switched to the old Earth song, "We Shall Overcome," filling the radio frequencies with words about never giving up. The psychological effect on both fleets was incredible. The coalition ships saw hope for the first time in years. The Veloxian fleet saw something they had never encountered, an enemy that treated impossible odds as a minor inconvenience. Fleet Commander Kexnala stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In 5 minutes, one primitive ship had destroyed 2 of his cruisers and was still fighting. "All ships surround the human vessel. Focus all fire on it." But Admiral Tae-ho had been watching the battle carefully. He saw his chance. "All coalition ships attack now. Support the humans." The damaged coalition fleet moved forward. Their ships were battered and low on ammunition, but they had seen something impossible. The Veloxians could be beaten. Captain Minho and his scout ship flew close to the Indomitable. "Captain Dongwu, your ship is badly damaged. You should retreat while you can." The human captain's voice came back immediately. "Negative. We're just getting started." The space battle was becoming chaos. The disciplined Veloxian formation was breaking apart as ships tried to surround the unpredictable human vessel. The Indomitable was now in the middle of the enemy fleet, surrounded by enemies but still fighting. Weapons Officer Hai Jin targeted a Veloxian destroyer at close range. "Captain, I have a clear shot with the main railgun." "Take it." The railgun fired, sending a metal slug the size of a telephone pole straight through the destroyer's weakened shields and into its reactor core. The enemy ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Medical Officer Yoon Young reported from her station, "Captain, we have 15 wounded, but no deaths. The crew compartments held together." The impossible was happening. A single human ship was fighting the entire Veloxian fleet and winning. Not through superior technology or clever tactics, but through pure stubborn refusal to give up. The galaxy was about to learn that humans did not fight wars the way civilized species were supposed to. They fought wars to win. Admiral Tae-ho watched the battle from his damaged flagship and felt something he had not felt in months: amazement. The human ship was still fighting, still moving, still destroying enemy vessels. It had been taking punishment that would have destroyed 3 coalition ships, but somehow it kept going. "Dayun, are you recording everything?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Yes, sir. But I don't understand what I'm seeing. They've taken direct hits from plasma cannons that should have melted through their hull. How are they still functional?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Chief Engineer Won-sik from the Indomitable had opened a communication channel to share technical information with the Coalition engineers. "Coalition vessels, this is Indomitable Engineering. We are sharing our damage control procedures with you." A Cathera engineering officer accepted the data transmission. What he saw made his crystalline structure flicker with confusion. "Admiral, you need to see this. The humans have a completely different approach to ship construction. Look at these internal designs." The human ship was built like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of large open spaces with critical systems, everything was divided into small sections. When one section was damaged, the others kept working. "They have 5 separate power plants," the Cathera engineer reported. 3 backup life support systems, 4 different navigation computers. If you destroy one system, 2 others can take over. But the most shocking thing was how the crew dealt with damage. While the battle was still going on, Human repair teams were working in sections that were still under fire. Medical Officer Yoon Young was coordinating the damage control teams. Section 7 is sealed off, but we can reroute power through Section 8. Hull breach in Section 12 is contained. How are your people working in damaged areas? Asked the amazed Kythera engineer. We wear protective suits and work fast. If a section becomes too dangerous, we seal it off and work around it. This was unthinkable to most galactic species. When their ships were damaged, they retreated for repairs. Humans just fixed things while they were still breaking. The Veloxian fleet was starting to panic. Fleet Commander Kex Nala had never faced an enemy like this. The human ship should have been destroyed 10 minutes ago, but it was still fighting. Status report, he demanded. Sir, we've lost 4 cruisers and 3 destroyers. The human ship has taken massive damage but shows no signs of retreating. How is that possible? His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. Sir, I think they're repairing damage as fast as we cause it. Their ship is like a living thing that heals itself. This was not how civilized warfare was supposed to work. Ships were supposed to fight at long range with elegant energy weapons. When they were badly damaged, they were supposed to withdraw for proper repairs. The humans were ignoring all these rules. Captain Dongwu was standing on his bridge, which now had several holes in the ceiling and sparks shooting from damaged control panels. But his crew was still working calmly at their stations. Kyung-ho, take us toward that group of destroyers. Hye-jin, prepare the port railguns. Sir, Young Seo reported. The Veloxians are trying to surround us. They're forming a sphere with us in the center. Good. That means they're all close enough for our weapons to be effective. This was exactly the opposite of what any sane captain would say. Being surrounded was supposed to be the worst possible situation. But humans seemed to see it as an opportunity. The Indomitable turned toward the nearest group of enemy ships. Its weapons were firing constantly now, sending streams of metal projectiles and nuclear missiles in all directions. A Veloxian destroyer tried to ram the human ship, hoping to damage it the same way the humans had damaged them. But when the 2 ships collided, it was the Veloxian vessel that took the worst damage. Their hull is too thick, the destroyer captain reported just before his ship broke apart. It's like hitting a mountain. The human ship barely slowed down from the collision. Its thick armor had been designed to absorb impacts that would destroy normal vessels. Admiral Tae-ho decided his damaged fleet had to help. All ships coordinated. Attack on the Veloxian flagship. We have to support the humans. The coalition vessels moved forward, but they were in terrible condition. Half of them could barely fight, but their attack created enough distraction for the Indomitable to break free from the Veloxian formation. Captain Dongwu immediately chose his next target, the enemy flagship itself. Kyung-ho, plot a course for the Veloxian command ship. Won-sik, I need everything the engines can give me. Sir, they'll concentrate all their fire on us if we attack their flagship, warned Young Seo. Then we better destroy it quickly. Fleet Commander Kex Nala saw the human ship turning toward him and felt something he had never felt before: fear. This primitive vessel had already proven it could destroy ships much more advanced than itself. All ships protect the flagship, stop that human ship. But the other Veloxian vessels were scattered and disorganized. The disciplined formation they had started with was gone. Ships were spread out across the battlefield trying to deal with threats from multiple directions. The Indomitable charged toward the flagship like an unstoppable force. Plasma beams reached out to stop it, melting more armor and creating more bright fires across its hull. But the ship kept coming. Sir, we're losing structural integrity in the forward sections, reported Won-sik. How much longer can we hold together? Maybe 5 more minutes under this kind of fire. That's enough. The human ship was now close enough for its heaviest weapons. Hye-jin targeted the enemy flagship's bridge with the main railgun. Firing. The metal slug hit the Veloxian command ship's shields and penetrated. The impact sent shockwaves through the entire vessel. Emergency alarms began sounding on every deck. Shield generator failure. We're taking direct hits. Fleet Commander Kex Nala watched his control panels spark and flicker. Damage control teams to all sections. But the humans were not finished. Nuclear missiles began impacting the flagship's hull, each explosion weakening the ship's structure. The elegant Veloxian vessel was being torn apart by primitive weapons. "Sir, engine room reports power failures. We're losing propulsion." Kexnala realized his fleet was facing something unprecedented: defeat by a technologically inferior enemy. It should have been impossible, but it was happening. The turning point came when Intelligence Officer Yuna on Admiral Tejo's ship intercepted a human military communication. What she heard made her crystal structure glow with excitement. "Admiral, I just decoded a message from Earth Command to Captain Dongwu. The main human battle fleet is still 6 months away. This ship is just a patrol vessel." The word spread across the coalition fleet like wildfire. If this was just one patrol ship, what would happen when the real human fleet arrived? But the psychological effect on the Veloxians was even greater. They had been defeated by what humans considered a minor warship. Fleet Commander Kexnala made a decision that would shame him for the rest of his life. "All ships, general retreat. Withdraw from this sector immediately." The order shocked everyone, including his own officers. "Sir, we still outnumber them. Look at your screens. We've lost 7 ships to 1 primitive vessel. How many more will we lose fighting the entire human fleet?" The Veloxian retreat began slowly, then gained speed as panic spread through their ranks. Ships that had been fighting for 3 years without a single defeat were running away from a single human patrol boat. Captain Dongwu watched the enemy fleet withdrawing and opened a channel to Admiral Tejo. "Admiral, the Veloxians are retreating. Should we pursue?" Tejo looked at his tactical display. His fleet was badly damaged and low on ammunition. But somehow, they had won. "Captain, I think you've done enough for one day. Besides, your ship looks like it needs some repairs." The Indomitable was indeed a mess. Its hull was blackened and torn, with sections completely missing. Atmosphere was venting from dozens of holes, but it was still functional, still fighting ready. "Admiral, we came here to help. The job is not finished until your space is secure." For the first time in years, Admiral Tejo smiled. "Captain, I think the job is finished, at least for now." The space around the dead planet Corvex 7 was quiet again. The Veloxian fleet was gone, leaving only wreckage behind. The coalition had survived, and somehow impossibly they had won, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. Word of the human victory would spread across the galaxy. Nothing would ever be the same. 3 days after the battle, the coalition fleet was still trying to understand what had happened. Science Officer Da-Un had been studying video recordings of the fight, running calculations and analysis programs around the clock. "Admiral, I think I know why the humans were so effective," she reported to Admiral Tejo. "Explain." "It's not just their technology, sir. It's their entire approach to warfare. Look at these tactical patterns." Da-Un showed him recordings of the Indomitable during the battle. While Veloxian ships moved in careful formations and followed established battle doctrines, the human ships seemed to make up new tactics moment by moment. They don't fight the way we expect them to fight. When we would retreat to repair damage, they keep attacking. When we would try to maintain distance, they charge straight in. When we would follow careful battle plans, they adapt to whatever happens. Admiral Tejo nodded slowly. "They treat every battle as a completely new problem to solve." "Exactly, sir. And they solve it with whatever tools they have available, even if those tools seem primitive." The Indomitable was docked at Coalition Station Gamma 7 for repairs. The damage was extensive, but Chief Engineer Wansik and his teams were working miracles. Sections of the ship that looked completely destroyed were being rebuilt with salvaged materials and creative engineering. Captain Dongwu was meeting with coalition leaders in the station's main conference room. The meeting had been going on for 6 hours, and they were discussing something that could change the galaxy. "Captain," said Admiral Tejo, "we want to propose a formal military alliance between our species and Earth." Diplomatic attaché Su Jin spread out star charts on the table. "The Veloxians will be back. This defeat will make them angry, and they'll bring more ships next time. We need to be ready." Captain Dongwu studied the charts carefully. "What kind of alliance are you thinking about?" "Technology sharing," said Da-Un. "Your species has developed approaches to engineering and tactics that we never considered. In exchange, we can offer you advances in energy weapons, shields, and faster-than-light travel. Also, added Admiral Tejo, we need to learn your methods of damage control and crew training. Your people worked in conditions that would have killed most of our crews. The captain was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, what does Earth get out of this arrangement? Protection for your colonies and trade routes, access to galactic civilization, and the knowledge that you're helping to protect innocent people from aggressive empires. Captain Dongwu smiled. I think Earth Command will be very interested. But the alliance was about more than just military cooperation. Supply Officer Jin Ho had been working with coalition engineers to solve a critical problem: how to build ships that combined human durability with alien technology. The basic idea is simple, Jin Ho explained to a group of mixed human and alien engineers. We take human ship construction methods and add your advanced systems. A Kythera crystal engineer flickered with interest. Your redundant design philosophy could make our ships much more survivable. And your energy weapons could make our ships much more effective at long range, added Jin Ho. The first prototype was ready within 2 weeks. It was a modified coalition frigate with human-style armor, backup systems, and damage control procedures. When they tested it against simulated battle conditions, the results were impressive. The test ship survived impacts that would have destroyed the original design, reported the Kythera engineer. And when major systems failed, the backup systems kept it functional. But the real test came when the Veloxians returned. Fleet Commander Kex Nala had been demoted after his defeat, but he was determined to redeem himself. He returned to the coalition sector with twice as many ships and a new strategy. This time we will be ready for their primitive tactics, he told his officers. We will maintain long range and destroy them with concentrated plasma fire before they can get close. But when his fleet arrived, they found something they did not expect. The coalition fleet was larger than before, and the ships looked different. Captain Minho was now commanding one of the new hybrid vessels, the CSS Resilience. His crew included humans, Kythera, and Zephyrians, all trained in the new combined tactics. Veloxian fleet detected, reported his tactical officer, a Zephyrian named Bist Click. 47 ships, same composition as before. Communications Officer Hana, open a channel to Admiral Taiho. Communication Specialist Hana was human, trained in both Earth and Coalition procedures. She had established new communication protocols that let mixed crews work together more effectively. Admiral, this is Captain Minho. The enemy fleet is maintaining long range, probably trying to avoid close combat. Understood, Captain. Execute Plan Delta. Plan Delta was something completely new in galactic warfare. Instead of meeting the enemy in one big battle, the coalition ships split into small groups and attacked from multiple directions. The Veloxians found themselves fighting not one fleet, but a dozen smaller forces that appeared and disappeared, unpredictably. Each small group was led by officers trained in human adaptive tactics. Sir, the coalition ships are not following standard battle formations, reported the Veloxian tactical officer. Then we will adapt our own tactics to counter them. But every time the Veloxians adapted to one pattern, the coalition switched to a different one. The human philosophy of make it up as you go had infected the entire fleet. Captain Dongwu, now commanding a new ship called the UES Unstoppable, was leading one of the attack groups. His crew was entirely human, but they were using coalition energy weapons and shields. Jin, target that cruiser with the plasma cannons. Young Seo, plot an evasion course that brings us closer to their destroyers. The combination was devastating. Human unpredictability with alien firepower created a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Within 4 hours, the Veloxian fleet was retreating again. But this time, they had lost 15 ships without destroying a single coalition vessel. After the battle, the Alliance partners met to discuss what they had learned. The combination of technologies works better than we expected, reported Admiral Tejo. Human damage control procedures saved 3 ships that would have been lost under the old system. Chief Engineer Wansik added his own observations. The alien shield technology is incredible. Combined with our armor, these ships can survive almost anything. But Intelligence Officer Yun Ah had been analyzing Veloxian communications during the battle. I think we have a bigger success than just winning battles. The Veloxian Empire is starting to fragment. She showed them intercepted messages between different Veloxian fleets. They're arguing about tactics, questioning their commanders, and some fleets are refusing to attack coalition space. Why? Asked Captain Dongwu. Because they're afraid. For the first time in their history, the Veloxians have met an enemy they can't defeat with conventional tactics. Their entire military philosophy is based on technological superiority. When that doesn't work, they don't know what to do. The alliance was growing too. Other species had heard about the human victory and wanted to join the coalition. The Aquarid water dwellers sent a diplomatic mission. The ferret metal shapers offered to help build ships. Even some former Veloxian colonies were asking for protection. Within 6 months, the coalition controlled twice as much space as before the war started. More importantly, they had established something new in the galaxy. A military alliance based on cooperation instead of conquest. Captain Dongwu received a message from Earth Command that made him smile. The main battle fleet has been delayed. They're stopping to pick up volunteers from the new allied worlds. When they get here, it won't be just a human fleet. It will be the first truly galactic fleet in history. Diplomatic attaché Sujin was working on the most important project of all, establishing permanent peace. We're not just trying to defeat the Veloxians, she explained. We're trying to show them that there's a better way to interact with other species. Some Veloxian worlds were already asking for negotiations. The empire that had conquered dozens of star systems was learning that some enemies could not be defeated by force alone. Admiral Te Ho looked out at the mixed fleet of human Kithara, Zephyrian, and other vessels, and felt proud of what they had accomplished. 6 months ago, we were losing a war and facing extinction. Now we're the strongest military force in this part of the galaxy. What's our next objective, Admiral? Asked Captain Dongwu. Peace, Captain. Real, lasting peace. It was an ambitious goal, but if humans had taught the galaxy anything, it was that impossible goals were just engineering problems waiting to be solved. Fleet Admiral Park Sung-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Unstoppable, watching the stars change as his massive fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 8 months of travel from Earth, picking up volunteers and supplies from dozens of worlds, he had finally arrived at the Warzone. But what he found was not what he expected. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving greetings from the Coalition Defense Fleet. Admiral Te Ho is requesting permission to come aboard." "The war is over?" asked Admiral Park. "According to the messages we're receiving, yes, sir. The Veloxian Empire signed a peace treaty 3 weeks ago." Admiral Park looked out at the space around them. Instead of battle-damaged ships and debris fields, he saw a thriving region of space. Coalition stations were busy with trade ships. Mixed fleets of human and alien vessels patrolled peacefully. "Well," he said with a smile, "I guess Captain Dongwu didn't need our help after all." Admiral Te Ho arrived on the human flagship with a delegation that included representatives from 15 different species. The meeting was held in the main conference room, which had been expanded to accommodate the various life forms. "Admiral Park," said Te Ho, "welcome to the Andromeda Reach Coalition Defense Zone." "Thank you, Admiral. I have to admit I'm impressed. The reports we received during our journey were encouraging, but this exceeds all expectations." Captain Dongwu, now wearing the uniform of a Coalition Commodore, brought Admiral Park up to date on recent developments. "The war ended when the Veloxian government realized they couldn't win using conventional tactics," he explained. "Their empire was fracturing as different fleets refused to fight. Some worlds were declaring independence. Others were asking to join our coalition." "What about their military?" asked Admiral Park. "Most of their fleets have been converted to exploration and defense roles. Some of their best officers are now working with us to establish interstellar law enforcement. Intelligence. Officer Yuna had prepared detailed reports on the transformation of the region. Sir, we now have formal alliances with 23 species. Trade between our worlds has increased by 400%. Piracy and conflict are at historic lows." But Admiral Park noticed something else in the reports. "It says here that you've established something called the Coalition Academy?" Diplomatic Attaché Sujin was excited to explain this project. It's a joint military and diplomatic training center. We teach officers from all member species how to work together. The curriculum includes human adaptive tactics, Kythera technical skills, Zephyrian navigation techniques, and much more. We're not just building a military alliance, added Admiral Tejo. We're creating a new model for interspecies cooperation. The academy was located on a former Veloxian military base that had been converted into a peaceful training facility. Admiral Park visited it during his tour of Coalition space. Commander Ji-woo, now an instructor at the academy, showed him around the training facilities. We have students from 30 different worlds here. They learn not just military tactics, but also diplomacy, trade negotiation, and conflict resolution. In one classroom, Admiral Park watched human instructors teaching alien cadets about damage, control procedures. In another, a Kythera professor was explaining energy weapon theory to a mixed class of species. The most popular course is called Terran Doctrine, explained Ji-woo. It teaches the human approach to problem solving. Adapt to whatever situation you face, use whatever tools you have available, and never give up. Are these lessons effective for non-human species? More than we expected, sir. It turns out that most species can learn to be creative and adaptable. They just needed someone to show them how. But the greatest test of the new alliance was still to come. The first warning came from long-range sensors in the Galactic Core region. Science Officer Daewon detected energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Admiral Tejo, we're picking up massive objects moving in our direction. The energy readings are unusual. How unusual? They're artificial, but the technology appears to be millions of years old. And sir, they're big. Much bigger than any ship we've ever seen. Within days, the objects were close enough for detailed scans. What they found terrified the entire galaxy. They're automated war machines, reported Yuna, after analyzing the sensor data. Ancient artificial intelligences with one purpose: to eliminate all organic life. The machines had been sleeping in the galactic core for eons. Something had awakened them, and they were systematically destroying every inhabited system they encountered. How many are there? Asked Admiral Park. We've detected at least 50 massive ships, each one capable of sterilizing an entire planet. They're moving through space in a direct line toward the most populated regions of the galaxy. For the first time since the human alliance began, Admiral Tejo felt real fear. Our combined fleets might be able to stop one or two of those machines. But 50? That's impossible. Captain Dongwu, now commanding the hybrid battleship CSS Indomitable II, had a different perspective. Admiral, 6 months ago everyone said it was impossible for one human ship to defeat the entire Veloxian fleet. This is different, Commodore. These machines have had millions of years to perfect their technology. Maybe, but they've also had millions of years without anyone to fight. They might not be prepared for opponents who don't follow predictable patterns. The Coalition called an emergency assembly of all member species. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to discuss the threat. Many wanted to evacuate to distant galaxies. Others suggested trying to negotiate with the machines, but the humans had a different idea. We fight, said Admiral Park simply. We combine every ship, every weapon, every tactical innovation we've developed. And we stop them here. With respect, Admiral, said a Veloxian delegate. These machines destroyed the civilization that built them. How can we hope to succeed where their creators failed? Admiral Tejo stood up to address the assembly. 6 months ago, my people were facing extinction. We had been fighting a losing war for 3 years. Then one human ship arrived and changed everything, not through superior technology, but through a different way of thinking about problems. He looked around the room at the representatives of dozens of species. The ancient machines are programmed to fight according to the patterns they learned millions of years ago. But we don't fight according to ancient patterns, we make up new ones every day. The vote was unanimous. The entire coalition would stand and fight. The preparation took 3 months. Every shipyard in coalition space worked around the clock to build new vessels and upgrade existing ones. The academy trained officers in new tactics specifically designed. To fight artificial intelligences, Chief Engineer Wansik led a team that developed weapon systems combining technologies from every member species. The machines expect energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, he explained. They don't expect quantum disruption fields or crystalline resonance bombs. When the ancient machines finally reached Coalition space, they found something their programming had never anticipated. A fleet that fought with no consistent pattern, using weapons that had never existed before, led by species that treated impossible odds as engineering challenges. The battle lasted for 6 days. Ships were lost, worlds were threatened, and entire fleets were destroyed. But in the end, the ancient machines were stopped, not by superior firepower, but by opponents who refused to fight the way machines expected them to fight. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched the debris fields for survivors, Admiral Park met with coalition leaders to plan for the future. There will be other threats, he said. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we can't protect everyone by ourselves. What do you suggest, asked Admiral Tejo. We expand. We invite every peaceful species to join us. We teach them what we've learned about cooperation and adaptive tactics. And we make sure that no threat, no matter how ancient or powerful, can ever again threaten innocent people. The Coalition Academy was expanded into a network of schools on dozens of worlds. The fleet was reorganized into rapid response groups that could defend any part of Coalition space. Trade and communication networks connected hundreds of species in peaceful cooperation. And in classrooms throughout the galaxy, young officers studied the battles that had created this new age of peace. They learned about the human ship that had changed everything, about the alliance that had grown from one act of courage, and about the importance of never giving up when fighting for something important. The lesson that echoed through every classroom, every training exercise, and every graduation ceremony was simple. When faced with impossible odds, humans don't calculate the chances of success. They just find a way to win. The galaxy had learned that some problems can't be solved with superior technology or overwhelming force. Sometimes the best solution is to refuse to accept that a problem is unsolvable. And somewhere in space, on patrol ships and exploration vessels, crews of humans and aliens work together, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might present. They had learned the most important lesson of all, that cooperation, creativity, and determination can overcome any obstacle. The age of human guardianship had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.